everybody, welcome to my TED Talk. I'm just kidding, it is a testimony. This is my first time doing this, so if it's awkward, I'm sorry. It's all on me, not you. I would like to first thank you guys so much for tuning in to watch our spring show. We as Resound have worked really hard to put this together for you guys, and we hope that is something that can really bring joy, but also a peace in the storm that is happening all around us right now. And if you don't know me, my name is Anna, and I have been with Resound for 2 years now, and I'm actually a graduating senior, so yeehaw. I first like to start off my testimony by giving an overview of how I've grown up in church and also transitioning throughout college. Let's get started. So growing up, I was the classic Asian child that did like 5 different things at once. I would go to Chinese school, I go to dance classes, supplemental classes, you name it. But outside of those 5 different things, I would do something a little bit different, which was going to church. And with that, it was very irregular. It was whenever I was going, I think I want to be a good girl today and follow my parents to this building and praise and sing and sit there for an hour and learn about who this God really is. And because I went really infrequently, I actually was pretty lonely and I didn't know a lot of the other children. And growing up, I didn't really have a full understanding of God and who he was until going to college. And joining a lot of ministry groups that were available at UT, I was really able to meet a bunch of my close friends through these ministry groups, but also study on who God really is. I met a lot of my best friends through these groups, and I have a lot of fond memories of us going to worship nights, Bible studies, discipleship groups, you name it. But one of the most striking Bible studies that I remember is when my discipler was talking about this concept of God plus something else my freshman year. And when I first heard of that, I personally got attacked. It's like that thing that happens where like somebody calls you out and you're just like looking down, you're like, I'm totally not that kind of person. That was definitely me. Basically the concept was that if you worship God plus something else, was your heart truly dedicated to the Lord? And for me, I thought that, if this something else is really, really small, maybe like he can just overlook it. Maybe it's not like that important. I just didn't see the harm in having God plus something else. For me also, that something else changed as the years went on. Freshman year, it was chasing after God plus a stable community and stable friend group. Sophomore year, it was chasing after internships. Junior year was relationships, and finally senior year, it was this idea of a job and a stable career. And fall semester senior year was when my faith took a turn for the worst. It was actually when that something else turned to my everything else. Dun dun dun. To give a little bit of background on what happened, my family, before senior year, we took a summer trip to California where we explored a lot of the state, and we went to the city called San Francisco. And when I saw it, I was completely amazed and in awe of how beautiful it is and how perfect it was. The perfect blend of like city and urban life, but also nature, which I always loved. And I was just so in love with that city that I was like, God, can you please bring me here? Like, if it is in your plans, I just really, really want to come here post-grad. Like, pretty please, with like a dozen cherries and pineapple pizzas on top. But the thing is, coming back after California, I was really scared that God wouldn't have California in his plans for me. And I decided to take this all on myself, and that I could really get there on my own 2 hands without him. So from then on, I thought that everything Christian was just a distraction, to say the least. I stopped going to Bible studies, I stopped going to these worship events because I viewed them more as a waste of time. And I instead spent this time going to networking events, those dinners, recruiting events, prepping for interviews, and all of those things that honestly are so nerdy and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And with that, I was constantly outside of my apartment. I was out, to give you like an understanding, I was out from 9 a.m. all the way to 1 a.m. the next day, and I barely saw my roommate. I lived with her, but like I didn't really live with her. And I basically filled my Google Calendar into what it looked like pretty much a coloring book. I had everything blocked off in the day because I just didn't want any downtime that would make me think of what life was truly like without God. And I ended up getting some of the things that I wanted, such as like the dance covers for the groups that I wanted to be in, as well as some interviews with Reach companies. But even as I reached these goals, I never was truly fulfilled. There was always something else that would replace it. So I would fall into this constant cycle of reaching, obtaining, and not finding myself satisfied and going back and forth. At night, when all the world was asleep, that was when I was haunted by these thoughts of loneliness and also meaninglessness the most, because I realized that everyone in society always tells you to chase your dream, but nobody really tells you what to do after you've gotten it. Why does the feeling of satisfaction never last if that's your dream? Then I always think, oh, maybe then that dream wasn't enough. And so as I chased after the world and also this idea of a successful career, I then aligned my identity with how many achievements and how many offers I got. And to be honest, I got rejected by a lot of companies. So as I got rejected from one company after another, my self-worth and also self-esteem fell with each and every single rejection. It got so severe to the point where I didn't want to give advice to younger classmen because I didn't feel like I was qualified, or I didn't want to even talk to friends. And slowly after a course of a month, my personality started changing and I started becoming really cold-hearted and mean. And I started lashing out at people, especially my roommate was one of them. She did not deserve my crap, by the way. But I felt like with my anger, I was finally able to control something in my life, which I felt like I had previously no control over. I also chose interview prep and all those things versus hanging out with people and my close friends. Bad idea now that I think back on it. I remember going to one resound rehearsal where I felt like such a hypocrite because I could not understand or comprehend any of the lyrics anymore for worship because they were all meaningless to me. I did not know what they meant, what God's love meant, and also what his promises and mercy really looked like, as I identified as like a non-Christian. A lot of people didn't really know what was going on and they couldn't really tell because I also put up a face in front of everyone, until one of my friends actually sat me down for a talk and she said that she noticed that I had changed. And talking with her actually made me notice and realize that I had a clear choice. I could continue living this life that I did, or I could try to fix my broken relationship and face this reality of God. So going back to my apartment, I actually felt really depressed and really dejected because talking with her made me realize how truly prominent my problems were. It was not a point that I can even hide it anymore. People are starting to notice. And I felt so sad, so broken, so dejected, and so alone. And I thought that if life is all about chasing after these accomplishments, all these things, I honestly don't want it. And in my most vulnerable state, I felt like the sense of darkness that was weighing over my heart and consuming me. And I felt so depressed that I called out desperately to God, saying, God, help me. When I said that, literally the thoughts stopped. Like they took a pause. I felt the darkness stop and just stay still for a second. And I kept on going. I was like, God, bring me out of this darkness. I don't want this. Can you just bring me to you? And suddenly I had the desire to go to my devotions of that day. And I can just let y'all know that I have not read my devotions for many, many months until that day. Because when I opened that little book, the last bookmark was at May 25th. And that day was September 26th. So you can see how different that was, how much time has progressed. And what the devotion said was, when your world looks dark and threatening, come to me. Pour out your heart to me, knowing that I'm listening and I care. So that sentence really brought out the sweat from my eyes, realized how broken and helpless I was without God. I realized that I made God my side dish when in reality, he was the only full course that could really satisfy me. And soon as other priorities in life surfaced and grew bigger, the focus on God also grew smaller until the point where he didn't even show up on the dinner table. Growing up, I had always been that follower child, that perfect child that you can per se, where I always followed directions, whatever my parents told me. And college truly gave me the option to decide whether or not I wanted this relationship with God. And in college, they say that you learn a lot about yourself. I truly learned that really without God, I am very cold, very bitter, and also very angry, and also very caught up in the pursuit of these achievements that can truly never satisfy me. While these may still be me in certain situations, these terms actually don't define who I am, because my identity now is found through Jesus. All my life, I was trying to work towards building an identity through attaining certain things, such as friendships, relationships, or career, but nothing will ever be enough to really cover up my sins to what Jesus has already done on the cross for you, for me, and for everyone. And long story short, I did what the Devo asked. I poured out my heart to God, asked for his forgiveness, and I wanted to be his daughter again. And after praying that prayer, I felt a glimmer of hope and true happiness that I actually haven't felt in months. And truth to be told, the rest of my recruiting journey actually came with many blessings. I actually ended up getting the dream position and also role in San Francisco that I honestly would never have thought I'd gotten. So glory to God on that. I honestly wish that I had really trusted in his plan and really in him since the start. But I'm thankful for this entire journey because it gave me a realization and also choice that I consciously make every single day to choose God over other things. And also in this extra time that we all have, whether it is baking banana bread or doing Chloe Ting workouts, I really encourage you to ask yourself, what is that thing that you are chasing after? With all the distractions of the world gone, when school is canceled, when jobs are postponed, what are you truly living for? And if you're a Christian, what is that something else that may get in your relationship with God? And trust me, it may be smaller than you think. And if you're non-Christian, would you consider inviting Jesus to dine with you at the table? Whether you're chasing after the something else or the nothing else, God's love tells us that you don't have to run anymore. In fact, God will meet you wherever you're at, even if you're a crazy girl like me who is trying to get her Texas self to the West Coast. Thanks so much for listening to my story, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.